Hey everybody, it's Matt. It has been a while. I know. It's been a while. But guess what? We're here today to talk about the deck that everybody keeps asking me about, my General Megatron deck. It has Aimless and Flamewar from Wave 1. What a great team. I have had a bunch of emails, people on the Facebook group asking me my list, people that have been saying, when are you going to post your next video? Here it is. Been a little bit busy lately, so I'm sorry that I've been away, but I hope everybody enjoyed that draw we did for the golden promos. Hopefully you guys have received those by now, or gals. Let's talk about this list. So, a little bit of history. When Wave 1 came out, I was incredibly excited to play Megatron in a deck, but unfortunately the Megatrons for the tanks and the living weapon weren't really up to snuff. And then in Wave 2, that didn't help any much more. But with this wave, it's great to see a Megatron that really takes charge and can be a threat. Now, he is not a 3-white Optimus deck. It's not. I've played it against it, specifically shadow playing or goldfishing against myself. And most times, I will pull the win out with that 3-white Optimus deck. But there's been games where I found them very close. And after specifically side decking to go ahead and face it, it's come down to almost either luck. Now, with all that out of the way, how does this deck play and why should you play this card? So, General Megatron himself is a leader class. He is 13 stars, Flamewar is 5, and Aimless is 7. Aimless is a Battlemaster. These guys both have the ranged subtype. Megatron's a tank. Flamewar is a specialist on a motorcycle. The Old Faithful from Wave 1 gives Tough 1 to everyone when she is in her bot mode, and she gives Bold 1 when she flips back for that turn to everyone that is on the battlefield on your team. Megatron, when he is in this mode over here, when you flip back to your tank mode, or alt mode, do damage to an enemy equal to the number of weapons you currently have on the battlefield. Now, most times you're going to have about 3 weapons. I did originally make builds where I was playing this card over here called Attack Drone, but I found that whenever Attack Drone came down, it would usually be mid-game or late game, and by that time, Aimless was dead, and he would have to go on to usually General Megatron, and I would lose these Attack Drones and the value for them. So, through that, I realized that Attack Drone, as much as I want to live the dream and play the dream with these cards, just doesn't work. So, Aimless, when he dies, he is going to go ahead and flip from his Tough 3 mode into this weapon called the Manifold Ion Particle Blaster. It is a weapon that immediately has to go onto one of your characters if they're here. Most times you'll place it on Megatron. If he's dead and Flamewar's left, you'll put it on her. And when the upgraded character attacks and you flip at least 3 blue, do 3 damage to the defender. If this would leave the battlefield, put it in your KO zone instead. Now, when we look at Megatron in his bot mode, he is still a leader and he's ranged. And it says, at the start of your turn, if this has 3 or more upgrades, do 1 damage to each enemy. That's great. So it's going to be hard to keep a lot of upgrades on Megatron. That's where our upgrade base and our actions come in. So let's go ahead and slide these jokers out of the way and talk about the cards. So I've had requests before to say, hey Matt, can you make sure that you lay out all your cards instead of going over them one by one? We would kind of like to see the deck profile, and I'm taking the request, so let's go ahead and do what you ask. So first of all, let's look at our actions from left to right. They're not in alphabetical order or anything, I just want to put them that way. So our first card that we're going to look at is called Callous Leadership. Callous Leadership is a card from Wave 3 that says, move up to 5 damage counters from one of your Decepticon leaders that has 8 stars or more to one of your characters. This is great because if Megatron has taken some damage, possibly from some aggro decks or some pierce decks or high attack damage characters, you can transfer that damage to Aimless, your Battlemaster, that he can go ahead and die and turn into the gun. It is a great card. It's a white pip. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Swindled because we want to make sure that we're able to get an armor, a weapon, and a utility down on Megatron as soon as we can, and also to protect our characters. Aimless has a really high expectancy of life, meaning that since his Tough 3 with Flamewar's Tough 1 for a total of Tough 4, we'll make sure that he stays around for quite a bit. So you want to make sure that you get your armors down on your Flamewar and on your Megatron. Hunker Down is a card that I have actually been testing back and forth, and I found it's better than my original plan. Originally, I did have Equipment Enthusiasts and Photon Bombs in here, but I realized that just Hunker Down is just such a better card. I did try Leap into Battle as well, but the value of Megatron flipping back, triggering his alt mode with doing damage, and then recovering an armor from your scrap pile to go back on a Megatron is just so much value that you can't actually you can't shy with this card. It's just such a good card. You have to play it even though you're only playing one tank. Now, Security Checkpoint, most blue decks play this card. Each player reveals their hand and scraps all upgrades from it. It's just a card that happens to be in all mono blue decks and all high defense decks. You're going to need it, and if you don't have it, you may want to wait on building this deck. It's a bit pricey now, but either way, it's a great card to have. Fantastic, and it's our only double blue pip action card that's not a star. So, next, we have Battlefield Report. Now, Battlefield Report has been hit and miss with me. I am playing roughly about 4 orange pips in this deck, so at times when my defense really needed to be there and I ended up flipping 2 swips in an energy pack, I was pretty mad. But with the secret action Battlefield Report, you can set this down, and then when one of your characters defends, you can draw a card, or draw the cards off of it, and then take the card that you don't want from your hand, possibly a Handheld Blaster or a Security Checkpoint that you drew, and put it back on top of the deck to defend. And that will increase your defense against an ongoing attack. And also, it's a bit better than just Pep Talk. I'd rather have this than Pep Talk. Next is the card, which has been around since Wave 1, which was a Shining Star, The Bigger They Are. The Bigger They Are gives one of your characters Pierce 4 as long as it has less stars than the person that it's attacking. So, if Megatron is attacking a Combiner, it's going to give him Pierce 4. If Aimless and Flamewar are attacking people with more stars in them, it's going to give them Pierce 4. So, great card. Marksmanship, we're playing 2 of in this deck. I was playing 3 originally, but I found that 2 is just the right number. It works only if you have Megatron and Aimless in the battlefield. If you lose those characters and only have Flamewar, you're going to lose that ability to do range damage. It does 2 damage to a character that is in their bot mode. Next, we're playing 1 copy of Vaporize, 1 copy of Smelt. This is for upgrade removal, and also you can fetch your Smelt. Though you can't choose your target when you play Smelt, you can go ahead and still knock it off. Now, as we look at the upgrades over here, they're very specific and can be swapped out for some of the other cards that I put aside that I'll show you. Now, reinforced plating and extra padding are a must. Megatron has a whole bunch of equipment slots. He's got 3 of them, and this extra padding can go in 1 armor slot. And the fact that at 1 turn, you're able to go ahead and fetch that extra padding that you flipped, and you already have 1 in hand, and then you play Hunker Down to get the other one back that's in your scrap pile, getting tough through a Megatron is great. Plus, if you have a weapon and utility, that guarantees that you have 5 upgrades on Megatron, so he's always proccing his ability, which says at the start of your turn, if this has 3 or more upgrades, do 1 damage to each enemy, which will really get you ahead when facing against teams that are quite larger, such as aerial bots, any of the combiners that are 5 wide, and especially bugs. Now, next is going to be Energon Axe and Laser Cutless. These cards are very specific. Laser Cutless can only go on characters who have 7 stars or fewer. So if you don't have access to these, you can put Scoundrel's Blaster on here. You can also test with Scoundrel's Blaster, but I've found that I've had enough variety to actually get one of these in my hand to place it on the character that I need at that time. Energon Axe is a weapon that gives you +3 and Pierce 2, but can only be placed on damaged characters. So early game on Megatron, he's going to have a hard time getting that weapon on there. So you're going to want to throw the Armed Hovercrafts on him for the beginning as you're going to build him up until he gets some damage on him. Next is 3 Handheld Blasters. Don't play these on your character. They're there to be flipped only and swapped with the green pip cards that are in your deck. Next is Armed Hovercraft, which I mentioned prior. This is a card that when it comes into the battlefield on a ranged character, it has 1 damage to all your opponents. Now, if you're playing against a blue deck, and you notice that they are very heavy in defense mode, be very careful about playing your Armed Hovercraft, because if you go ahead and ping all their characters for 1 damage, you're going to give them the option to play an Energon Axe on their characters as soon as they draw it and get it on their turn. And nothing's worse than enabling an Energon Axe when they only have 1 damage on them. Next is Energy Pack. This can only go on a character that has 11 stars or more. It's on Megatron. It gives him 4 extra health. Now, people have asked me, why are you playing this 1 orange card in this deck? Energy Pack feels like a waste of time, because if you're not killing or defeating your opponent, what's the point of playing cards? Well, do you know what? I've played this deck multiple times, and there's been times when Megatron has just come down just right to the rim of him dying, and then me slapping an Energon pack on, flipping Megatron for the turn to do the damage, and then, you know, and then basically using it again by getting him back on his other side on the other turn to go ahead and snap everybody for 1 damage each. So it's just a great thing to have. Plus, you know, you play that, you hunker down, you get your armor, you flip back for your next turn. It's just good. Security console. Security console has been a staple for most blue decks since Wave 2. It allows you to plan once, whenever your character defends, you can draw a card and then put a card from your hand on top of it. So you can go ahead and stash these handheld blasters. The security checkpoints are the other cards that you're not currently using. For example, if Megatron and Aimless are down, you don't need these Laser Cutlesses anymore. So you can toss those for better cards. Vice versa, if you don't have any damage on your characters yet, you can toss the Energon Axes for later. Now, that is the basis of the deck here. And on your first turn, most times when you're playing this deck, you're going to want to make sure that you flip Flamewar, attack with Aimless. Most times if you're going into bugs, you're going to notice that you're going to hit them pretty hard for about 3 damage because they're not going to have much blue in their deck. Next turn, you're going to want to flip Megatron and get some type of equipment on him or Flamewar. If you do have the armor, you may want to put it on Flamewar. Be quick to remember, though, that if you're playing aggro, they're going to have Bashing Shield and lots of way to remove that stuff. If Aimless does flip to his weapon mode when he dies, there are a total of 4 white pips in this deck. I have been known to flip this sometimes, but when you're playing in a different match, you're going to want to do some quick little swaps with the sideboard, which we'll talk about. Now, let's go into our sideboard. First of all, we have 2 characters that we can bring in, and they are Nemesis Prime or Optimus Prime. Depending on your playstyle, if you want an Optimus Prime, the Battlefield Legend, you're going to have to go ahead and swap out your Swindleds like that when you bring him in here, and also make sure that you're very careful because when he goes off here, he's going to cause a whole bunch of damage. You'll want to take out your Hunker Downs and your Swindleds. But I have a better choice than this big beefy boy. Let's bring in Nemesis Prime. Nemesis Prime is nuts. You're going to be defending your deck so much, and all of these cards are going to be flipping and going to your scrap pile and reshuffling. The Nemesis ability is going to go off very quickly. The fact that he can do direct damage and also get more powerful for more cards that shuffle and cycle through your deck, he is the best pick for your sideboard character, in my opinion. A little bit of glare there. Woo! Anyway, he's the best pick. I like him. I'll just go ahead and swap them out. Now, with that, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the sideboards. This is my current sideboard setup as of right now, but depending on who I'm facing in my known meta, I may change that going into what is being popular and what is being played. Currently, there's a lot of aggro and a lot of Autobots where I'm from, so I've been usually going with this list. So I'm putting in Scoundrel's Blaster. Scoundrel's Blaster is another card that's here that usually will take out the Handheld Blasters, or I'll take out the Armed Hovercrafts if I'm going against another heavy defense deck, or I'll just go ahead and try to slap them in to get that pierce damage. Next is 3 copies of Infiltrate. This goes in against aggro decks because I want to make sure that I stop their orange actions from going off. There is nothing more satisfying than playing an Infiltrate and watching someone waste a piece of tyranny to try to KO their Lionizer and it just not go off, and he just sits there. Next is 1 copy of Vaporize because you want to make sure you have a lot of upgrade removal. And last but not least is 3 copies of Dampening Fields. This is what I meant about having more white pips when you're in the blue mirror. Meaning that you're going to want to make sure that you're playing these cards so that you can go ahead and get as much actual, value out of that dual weapon. So who do I take out or who do you swap for this? Well, it all depends. Most times I've been taking out either Battlefield Report or I've been taking out cards like Swindled, depending on what you're facing. So that is the sideboard that I'm currently running, but I've also been known to run these cards. I've been known to run Espionage, Sparring Gear, Heavy-Handed, Hiding Spot, Leap into Battle, Photon Bomb, Equipment Enthusiast, Reflex Circuits, Urban Camo, and even Callous Leadership. All these cards are great cards to use, and one week when I knew that I was facing against all Dinobots and Insecticons, I just main decked these Reflex Circuits because they were so good. +2 defense against an enemy like that, when they're always melee characters, that's great. And if you're facing against your biggest matchups, which are the hardest, which would be bugs, dinos, and things like that, getting this on your characters is so good, plus the fact that it's fetchable. Alright, anyways, that is everything for this deck. I hope that everyone here had a great release. I hope you're having a great time. I'm not able to make it to Gen Con this year, but I hope that you have a great time there. Thank you for watching my videos. And as always, make sure that you check back and subscribe to the channel, and also check out topdecktcg.com and use the promo code MATTEFER for 10% off your order, and get some new spicy cards in there. And let me know what you want to see next. I do have a deck profile coming out for Captain Starscream with, I believe his name is Pterodactylon, or the Scythe, and one of the Sentinels. Anyways, have a good night. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this deck. That's the Jankyard. Peace.